Today, we will continue our Read Aloud series for Black History Month by shining the spotlight on this computer scientist. Her name, Cierra McDonald. Using computer science for serious fun. Fact file. Hometown, Chicago, Illinois. Education, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, Engineering, University of Illinois. Certificate in Game Design, University of Washington. Employment, Principal Program Manager for Xbox, Microsoft. Top honors and achievements. Inaugural recipient of the Industry Image Award, International Game Developers Association, Blacks in Games Special Interest Group. Jerry A. Lawson Award for Achievement in Game Development. IGDA Foundation. Speaker for Girls Who Code, DigiGirls, and Geek Girl Con. Just about everyone has some interest in computer games, whether it's your friend who has dominated every secret level of a particular blockbuster phenomenon or your granddad who just plays solitaire on his phone. While most video games aren't designed to save the world or cure a terrible disease, although scientists have actually used gamers to help with disease research, check out Folded as one example, they do provide something important: fun. For many people, video games provide a chance to unwind, reduce stress, and form communities. They can also be a great educational tool. Gaming has come a long way from its humble beginnings. Seriously, ask your parents or grandparents to describe a 1970s game called Pong. When they tell you it was two lines batting a dot back and forth on a television screen, you'll think they're kidding. But back in the day, this was state-of-the-art technology. Compare Pong to the popular video games of today that, with their breathtaking art and fluid animation, allow us to practically become a character in a movie, and you can appreciate how far computer gaming technology has come. But these leaps in technology didn't just happen. Gaming companies employ large teams of extremely talented people. One of those people is Cierra McDonald, Principal Program Manager at Xbox. McDonald's job description is so broad that it's hard to list all the things she does. But her primary job is to make sure the Xbox systems fit customer needs and that game developers get all the help they need in creating new games. McDonald, a computer science engineer, allows developers to focus on the creative side while she and her team make sure the games work flawlessly. Turn to page 49 to find out just how involved the process truly is. To that end, McDonald has helped invent several features for Xbox, including a way to archive gamer achievements. Achievements are bonuses that developers embed in individual games to provide virtual high fives to gamers who demonstrate exceptional prowess. Achievements offer players a chance to take on extra challenges on top of tackling the game's overall objective. A gamer has to do something extra cool to unlock a certain achievement. And when that unlocking happens, it's usually accompanied by a happy sound and a pop-up announcing the achievement. Achievements come with extra points that add to your game score, Xbox's measure of gaming awesomeness, but they're also just nice little pats on the back. One thing that concerned McDonald about achievements was that gamers could miss these well-deserved accolades. For example, if a gamer did something achievement-worthy at the exact moment her Wi-Fi cut out unexpectedly, that would be a real drag. McDonald, not wanting gamers to miss a single moment of glory, made sure that Xbox began keeping a record of gamers' achievements so that these successes could be relived. Because, hey, if your character survives all manner of peril and saves the day, you deserve your moment. Thinking about every aspect of gaming and how to make it even more rewarding and interactive is what McDonald does every single day. What's especially interesting is that while she's now helping gamers connect to one another worldwide, She started out as an only child playing games all by herself. The spark. For most of her childhood, Cierra was the only child of a single mom on the south side of Chicago. She has a little sister, but she wasn't born until Cierra was almost 15. Cierra's mother was a certified public accountant, CPA, who handled corporate audits for the Internal Revenue Service. In addition to working with numbers, CPAs have to know tons of intricate tax laws, so in some ways, they're kind of like lawyers with calculators. That meant that Cierra's mom was good at both mathematics and language skills. Additionally, she had an outstanding work ethic. She pushed herself, and she pushed me, says McDonald. She held a high bar, but also believed that I could meet it. She would recognize and acknowledge my accomplishments, but also push me when she knew I could do better. Really, she didn't have to push me much because I already knew what she expected, and I thought I could deliver, so it was more of an internal drive to challenge myself. Cierra's mom got her into the city's best magnet schools and enrolled her in after-school programs to keep her mind busy. But McDonald notes that her mom never forced her into activities she didn't like, instead focusing on Cierra's actual interests. I loved logic puzzles, McDonald recalls. I didn't realize they were math things, I just loved them. So my mom found a program where we did lots of logic exercises. She always really challenged me, and I think that's why I still challenge myself. McDonald also notes that her mother was an avid reader, something she picked up from her early on. Reading provided a fun way for Cierra, as an only child, to occupy herself when her mom was at work or brought work home with her. Another pastime Cierra enjoyed, playing board games, alone. I played a lot of multiplayer board games by myself, she says. I'd be 3 different players, but at the beginning of each game, I decided which player was actually me, and I'd keep score. I always stuck to whatever my score was, even if I was losing. I'd play pick-up sticks this way, as well as board games, such as Sorry. The name of that particular game makes it sound really sad, but I enjoyed myself. Cierra's mom had a personal computer at a time when computers weren't so prevalent in American homes. When Cierra was about 12 years old, she checked out a book on computer programming. It was out of sheer boredom, McDonald recalls. Back then, computers weren't everywhere, and there were no cell phones. So there weren't as many things available to distract kids. We had to find stuff to do. So I got this book, and it was about BASIC, a computer language. I was reading it and kind of understanding it, and kind of not understanding it, but they had code examples. The book said you could have a conversation with a computer, that it could talk to you. So on the not very fancy computer we had, there was a program I could run in BASIC and execute it so that the computer would say, "What is your name?" And you'd enter it and it would say, "Hello, Cierra." Then it would ask about your favorite color and things like that. So that was kind of my aha moment about computer science. Before that, I had used computers only to write a paper or play an occasional game. I had learned DOS, Disk Operating System, computer software that allows the computer to perform basic functions by installing games on floppy disks, because my mom didn't know how to do that and was like, "You figure it out." But this coding book taught me that I could do other stuff with a computer and that there were people behind it. Someone had to make it work. So I changed some lines out of the book, and that, to me, felt really dangerous because we didn't have much money, and I was worried that I would break something if I experimented with the computer. I knew that if I broke it, we couldn't necessarily replace it. But I saw that, oh wow, I could change some things without breaking it. That was how I learned what programming was. It was Cierra's uncle Derek, who was 15 years older than she, who first introduced her to a video game console. Derek was not a huge gamer himself, but he is the same sort of engineering nerd I am, so he always liked gadgets and tech. He bought an original Nintendo when I was about 3 years old. He was more like a brother to me, and he gave me that Nintendo. Derek went on to study computer science at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, eventually getting a PhD in the subject. Derek wasn't around much because he was so much older that he was either in school or working, McDonald recalls. But when he visited, we would talk shop. He'd tell me about his computers, and we'd talk about gadgets and stuff. He was the person I would talk to about what I wanted to be when I grew up. Of course, at that time, I wanted to be a scientist in a lab. I was so little that I didn't really understand what that meant. I thought scientists made everything, from food to furniture, poof, in a lab. But later on, when I came to understand what computer science was, thanks in large part to Derek, that began to appeal to me. Another great support system for Cierra was her grandparents. Her grandfather, an Air Force veteran, instilled in his children and grandchildren a strong work ethic, thriftiness, and respect for others. Though neither of her grandparents had college degrees themselves, it was important to them that their children and grandchildren obtain them. They are very proud that all of their 7 children have college degrees, McDonald says. Additionally, no teachers took a particular interest in her. My teachers were fine, but I can't say I remember by name any one of them as being particularly influential, McDonald says. I went to multiple schools throughout my childhood, so that's one reason it's hard to remember specific teachers. However, I went to a preschool called Villa Pre, deep on the south side of Chicago, and they taught me how to read by the time I was 4, and not just basic reading, but pretty decently advanced. People have a perception of the south side of Chicago as being a wasteland or a war zone, but they forget the human side of it, which is that there are people there who live and work and love their families. My preschool was great. Even though I never had any interest in becoming, say, an English major, I have always performed well on verbal and reading sections of standardized tests, only slightly lower than my math scores. And I give a lot of the credit to that early childhood education. The Eureka Moment. Because McDonald works on a large team at Xbox, she doesn't feel comfortable claiming personal responsibility for their big innovations. What we do is large and complex enough that it would be hard to point to one person who is responsible for everything, she explains. Even though I have some patents for things I have worked on or driven, I didn't do that work in isolation, even when I may have spearheaded things. However, McDonald designed and was responsible for the back-end system that enables the achievement systems used in Xbox 360, Xbox One, Windows, iOS, and Windows phones. Achievements, as explained earlier, are rewards within games for players who perfectly complete difficult tasks. They don't have value outside the game. You can't cash them in for prizes or anything like that. But most gamers agree that achievements are nothing short of awesome because they're fun and they increase your overall game score. I added a bunch of features on top of achievements, McDonald says. Some of those include allowing players to see how close they are to unlocking an achievement and giving them a big, sparkly diamond for unlocking rare achievements. The concept of achievement rarity is one that McDonald had a hand in. Basically, some achievements are unlocked by only a tiny percentage of gamers, and those achievements get special recognition. Undoubtedly a proud moment for the valiant few. But being so tied in with making gaming even more fun has its downside. McDonald, whose own game score is over 100,000, notes a common response when people find out what she does for a living. They often ask me if I can boost their score for them. Sorry, but no, she can't. You might think that being in such a creative field means that McDonald's bright ideas come to her in flashes of inspiration. But while some big ideas are born of serendipity, others come from day in, day out planning and strategizing. McDonald insists that her big ideas don't just pop into her brain unexpectedly. I like to think So I'm much less random with ideas, she explains. The ideas I generate are generally the product of intentionally thinking about my work. Note to self. Looking back on her childhood and teen years, McDonald would give her former self one important message. There is no one way to be a girl. What I mean by that, she explains, is that while girls feel a lot of pressure from society and from themselves to fit into a mold, whoever you are, whatever you are, and whatever you like or are good at, that is what girls like or are good at. It's not, oh, you must like these things, and if you don't, you should feel embarrassed. Maybe others won't share your interests, and maybe some people will make you try to conform. But be confident in what you like, because it's okay to be you. Doing geeky things and being interested in STEM or whatever doesn't have to be popular with anyone else. You are welcome to have your own interests. And if those interests are so unique that other people don't get it, then guess what? You may be blazing a new trail so that other people can like it too. Note to you. McDonald has one word for you: dabble. She explains, now more than ever, there's so much access to information and tools, and so much of it is free. So play around with stuff. You don't have to be afraid to break things. I mean, don't be cavalier with your parents' money, but get out there and try something. If you don't like it, that's fine too. But the earlier you start, the sooner you'll know what you like and don't like. Learning as you go is a great thing. And when you're young and don't have so many responsibilities piled on you, is the time to try stuff. She'd also like you to know that you don't have to be a computer scientist or an engineer to become part of the video gaming industry. People who work for gaming companies don't have to be STEM majors, she says. We need music people and artists and lawyers as well as engineers. So don't put a lid on yourself. Don't think there's no career path related to your interests. Whatever they are, don't think you have to do what other people want you to do. Investigate now what's right for you.